For today we're playing Avatar Frontiers of Pandora with the ROG Ally, and to start it off we're playing the game at 1080p at the lowest settings. Alright, here we are with that. There we go. So for our power settings, I'm using 25 watts for now, but at those lower resolutions I will try out 15 watts as well. Alright guys, here we go in the game. Let's count the FPS. And so far we're sitting at 15 FPS up to 20 FPS. It's not a good start, but we are playing at 1080p without FSR. So we definitely have some room for improvement, and I think 30 FPS could be doable. So yeah, obviously the game isn't playable as is right now, so let's pause it, enable FSR, and see if that can make the game playable for us at 1080p. And now using FSR with the performance preset, we are sitting in the 20s up to the mid 20s. So a small improvement, but already the game is feeling much better. And yeah, so far the game has had a couple of stutters and one long freeze for about a second, but all around it is decently playable at 25 FPS / 20 FPS. So I think if we can get 30 going, this can be playable for sure. For our last hope, we can use FSR 3.0 with frame gen and get fake frames in between the real frames and hopefully go above 30 FPS at 1080p. If it's not playable, then I'll bring it down to 900p as well as 720p. And in the settings, let's enable frame gen. There we go. And after a quick restart, we're now playing with FSR 3.0 with frame gen active. And we're sitting in the 30s and the mid 30s. The game is very stuttery though guys. It's definitely far less consistent than before, and for the input lag, it's feeling okay. It's not too bad, it's definitely usable I would say, but again the stutters are happening far too often, so it's kind of a deal breaker. For our second resolution, we're playing at 900p, again at the lowest settings, with FSR enabled, but no frame gen. And for our power limit, we're playing at 15 watts, but I will do 25 watts later in the video as well. Okay, 900p at 15 watts, we're sitting at 14 to 15 FPS. I'm not surprised, this is very unplayable obviously. The game is stuttering, FPS is down, and it is not a good time at all. And using frame gen at this point is kind of worthless, because the game is already lagging. And to be honest, at 1080p, the game was stuttering far more when I enabled frame gen, so I'm going to keep it off and just show you guys how it runs as is. Okay, now at 25 watts, we're sitting in the high to mid 20s. It's much better, that's for sure. The game is still stuttering here and there, but it's far less common versus 15 watts. Die. So tanky, dude. Let me just use the bow. What's up? There you are. Boom. And you're done. He's dead, right? Just die, man, please. Just die.
Thank you for these gifts.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so far this is a good balance between, I guess, quality and performance. The game looks very sharp still, it looks very nice, and our FPS is much higher than what we had at 1080p. It can go as high as the high 20s, but at the same time it can fall down to the low 20s as well. So it can be playable for some, but I think for most of you, you do want to get 30 FPS at least. So let's enable frame gen, see how it looks and how it performs. And lastly for 900p, we are playing with frame gen enabled. The stutters have begun already, not a good sign. For our FPS, we're sitting in the mid to high 30s and the 40s. So yeah, the inputs, the graphics, they all look fine, but the stuttering is what ruins it like 1080p. I'm sure in the future, there's going to be updates that will optimize the game a bit further, and it might become a viable choice in the future for the ROG Ally. Lastly, playing at 720p, at 15 watts, and with performance FSR, but no frame gen. So yeah, 15 watts, we're sitting at 14 FPS up to 20. It's okay, I guess, but the game is definitely stuttering far more, and it's far more aggressive versus at 25 watts. So I think for this game, you do want to be sitting at 25 watts for your playthrough. So let's pause it here and increase the power limit and see how we do then. And now at 25 watts, we are in the high 20s and the low 30s. And the stutters are still there, but again, it's not as aggressive as before. So personally, if I only had the ROG Ally as my only computer, then I would say this is playable for me. It does fall down into the 20s, but it's good enough that I can have a good time playing the game. But everyone is different. If you can't handle the stutters or the FPS dips, then this game might be a skip for you. Alright, time for some frame gen action. Let's restart the game and come back in. Finally, we're back into the game, and now with FSR 3.0 frame gen enabled. For our FPS, we're sitting in the 40s with dips into the 30s. Wow, almost the mid 40s as well actually. That's pretty good. But again, the stuttering is happening far too often. So it kind of ruins the experience for me at this point. It's kind of inconsistent too. It's not always going to stutter, but if it does, it's quite aggressive. So I think for me, I would use FSR 3.0 with no frame gen at 720p and just play in the mid-20s up to the low 30s. So yeah, it's a good start, and I think FSR 3.0 is doing a decent job for how low the FPS was running before. This is kind of sick. Look at them fight. Oh no, they're running away. Come back, fight them. Go fight them, go. Charge. And yeah, that's about it, guys. That is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora with the ROG Ally. I can't tell you if the game is playable for you or not. That's really up to you. So it comes down to the FPS dips and the stutters. And at 720p, you can get a mostly 30 FPS experience with dips into the 20s. And the stutters will happen regardless. So if you're fine with that, the game might be playable for you. And if you hate the stutters and all that, then obviously it's a skip for you. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time for the next video. See you guys there.